The Idaho women cruise to their 8th straight win, but a brutal road test looms large.
We get 2-on-1 and we decide we're going to make ESPN highlight reels instead of playing fundamental sound basketball. At some point this team has to grow up. It's really simple why we're getting our butts beat is because we aren't mature enough to win games.
And another crushing home defeat leaves the Vandal men searching for answers. Inside the Vandals, next. Hey, welcome into Inside the Vandals. I'm Tom Purvis, he's Joey Jenkins, and Joey, you heard him there, Coach Verlin, a little bit frustrated after that loss to Seattle U. Another tough loss. They're up by 16. They end up losing. What happened in that game?
Well, how could you not be frustrated? This team was up by 16. We're sitting with just about 14 minutes left, and then a 23-2 run for Seattle U. Then Idaho gets another lead. They're up by 4 with 14 seconds left. And what do you know? It's Seattle U that comes on top. And this team, Coach Verlin talked about it, a lack of execution and a lack of fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, how many more times are they going to lose a heartbreaker? I mean, they've lost so many close games here at the Cowan Spectrum. It's got to be tough on this team.
Well, this team is young, and this team has a lot of new players on this roster for this season. So maybe some of these tough losses can come expected. But the biggest problem now for the Vandals is they've got New Mexico State, arguably the best team in the WAC conference, coming to town, and then they've got Texas Pan American on Saturday. They don't have much time to think about this loss.
Not much time at all. Of course, Utah Valley, huge surprise in the conference as well. Now, talking about the women for a sec, now they go to Seattle and get an 18-point win, and this is huge for them. I mean, they do not like Seattle U. They played them 3 times last year. Every game was within 5 points. They beat them in the WAC championship. It was sweet for this team to go in and really make a statement to Seattle U. Hey, we're the team to beat in the WAC now. Seattle U was picked to finish first in that conference, but the Vandals went in there and they got them.
A nice little rematch of the WAC championship game, which is always fun. And really for the Idaho Vandals, 8-0, that's their best start in conference since 1985 and 86. They beat all the WAC opponents on their first round. And now you have to ask the question, when will they lose?
Yeah, when will they lose? And that's the thing. They got to focus one game at a time, because I think right now they can start to get their heads full of 16-0 in conference. You can't do that. But, of course, you talked to Coach Verlin about what happened against Seattle U.
Yeah, we recapped what was kind of a head-scratcher of a loss against Seattle U. We talk about the big matchups against New Mexico State and against Texas Pan American. Well, Coach Verlin joins us once again for another week on Inside the Idaho Vandals. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be here.
A tough one against Seattle U, you know, an interesting game. You guys go up by 16. We're looking at just a bit over 14 minutes to go, and then a 23-2 run for Seattle U. What happened? What changed from when you guys were up 16 to end up losing by 1?
Well, obviously, very tough game, very tough ending, and it's always hard on not only the coaches, the fans, but most importantly, it's very difficult on the players, because no one wants to finish games more than they do, and no one works harder than they do day in and day out. I mean, they're the guys that are out here grinding and working and trying to get better. You know, the bottom line is we didn't execute down the stretch. After watching the game tape, we just didn't do the things we needed to do to win the game. We got a little sloppy in our execution. We let some plays get away, and then we let our offense, which kind of hit a little bit of a bad streak, and that affected our defense, and then we didn't play very well defensively down the stretch. And you got to give Seattle U credit. They made some huge shots down the stretch, none bigger than the one with 14 seconds to go. We scored 14 seconds to go, and I can't pronounce the kid's name that knocked down the 3 there late, but that was a huge play, you know, to help them win the game.
When you have a game like this, and obviously you mentioned it stings, and it's hard for the players, it's hard for the fans. As a coach, what do you do to try to make it almost like a learning opportunity?
Well, you do a number of things. You know, first of all, you got to learn from your mistakes. So you show them those on videos, you talk about them, and you rehearse them on Monday in practice. I mean, that's all you can do. You can't make it a bigger deal than what it is. It's one basketball game. You know, and we've had quite a few of these this year. You know, and what you hope to do is learn from them, improve from it, and hopefully you won't make those mistakes again. And we're a young basketball team, still trying to grow up, still trying to do the right things to become a good team, and we haven't gotten there yet, but what we got to do is we got to continue to try.
Late game situations, and a lot of times when you're a fan sitting, you may think, well, you know, if it was the situation with 14 seconds left or the big 3, but as a coach, do you look and say, well, if we did this and this and this in the first half, wouldn't even be a situation late in the game?
Every possession counts the same. You know, the ones at the end of the game are just magnified a little bit more. You know, and should we have executed better late in the game? Yes, but there was a number of possessions when you're up 16 with 14 to play. How do they get back in the basketball game? And so every possession, every basket counts the same. I mean, 2-point goals are 2-point goals, 3-point goals are 3-point goals, and free throws are worth 1, and they don't change. And so what we got to make sure we do is value every possession the same. And that's been the problem with our team this year, is we don't do that. You know, if we get up or when we get up, we relax and don't value the possessions the same, and they're all the same.
Glenn Dean does make his return in this game. You know, 16 minutes, 3 points, not a big numbers. But every time I'm watching him, he's the guy on the bench cheering, clapping his hands. And what does he bring to your team now that he's back out on the court?
Well, hopefully we can get him back 100%. You know, he hadn't hardly practiced. He had practiced about one and a half days going into that game. And as you could see, you know, he played his first 4 minutes and he really wasn't very sharp. Anytime you miss a period of time in basketball, it takes you a while to get back. But to answer your question, what does he bring? He brings energy, he brings experience, and he brings a component of leadership that we don't have when he's not there.
This game obviously tough against Seattle U. Now when you look at the schedule, you've got New Mexico State, obviously a very talented team, and then you have Texas Pan Am. As a coach, do you go and do you say you focus on more of this game, or do you try to say, let's have a quick memory loss and let's get focused on Thursday and Saturday?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, you got to learn from your mistakes. Like I said, we take Mondays and watch the tape and teach them and get out on the floor and try to learn from the things that we didn't do right. And then now let's move on to our next game, which is New Mexico State, and get ready to play them, formulate our game plan, do the best we can, and do everything we can to win our next game.
2 more games coming up this week, and both of them right here in the Cowan Spectrum. New Mexico State and Texas Pan American is next on the schedule. We'll talk about that when Inside the Idaho Vandals returns.